Hey, it's Leo. I'm here to show you how to calculate standard deviation and p-value as well as create a bar graph in Excel. So to start with, what we're going to do is calculate the mean. If you don't know, mean is the same as average. So I'm just going to use the average function because it does the same thing. I am not going to get into what all of the terminology means today, but for simplicity's sake, let's just say that a function is a word with parentheses after it that will do something to what's inside the parentheses. So in the case of an average, it's going to average anything that's inside the parentheses. To start, we are going to type in an equal sign. What that does is it tells Excel that anything after that equal sign is going to be a function. Otherwise, Excel's just going to give you an error because it doesn't understand what you're trying to do. For the mean, what we're going to do is use the average function because it is the same as a mean. And you can click on this and it'll give you the first parentheses. Otherwise, you would just have to manually type out the function name and put in the opening parentheses yourself. So after the parentheses, what we're going to do is type our range, which will be, for this first column, B2 to B4. And this comma basically just means 2. So B2 to B4, or B2 up to B4. So we're going to put our closing parentheses, and that's going to close off the function. Don't forget that, or Excel will likely give you an error. So once we finish our function, we're just going to hit enter, and we'll have a result right here in the cell that we started our function in. There's an easy way to move these functions over to other cells, but I'll show you that after we finish this column. Next, we're going to do our standard deviation for this column. Remember, equal sign. And for the standard deviation, what we're going to do is stdev, and we'll click .s. So in between these parentheses, remember, we're going to type B2 to B4. And close our parentheses, and then hit enter, and you have your standard deviation. So for the next column, what we could do is type in the entire function, and that would be just fine. But for the sake of speed and also just being thorough in my explanation, we're going to hit Control-C and Control-V. And as you notice, the function has been moved over, but now it says C2 to C4. So if we click in here, we can see that it's including everything up here. So if you're copying and pasting whatever's in here to here, it's just going to do the 3 above it, just like this one is doing the 3 above it. Also, it's important as well that you're careful when you're editing functions, because if you're, say, double clicking and then you click on a different, or you're inside of this range and you click on a different cell, it's just going to add it to another cell, or you're just going to add that cell to your function, which you don't want. It can get really annoying and really confusing. If you want to leave a cell and you're, for some reason, adding cells to your function, just hit enter and you can get off. So what we're going to do for this one is click over on this cell, Control-C, move over to this cell, Control-V, and boom, your function has been copied over. Like I said, you don't have to do that. You can just manually rewrite the entire function. That works just fine as well. It's just slightly easier to just copy and paste. This is going to be C2 to C4. Enter. So yeah, same thing. It you know, I'm just trying to give you shortcuts so it doesn't take quite as long. So finally, we're going to do our p-value. There's two ways to do this, and I'm going to show you the way that doesn't involve downloading the data analysis module, because that's a whole complicated thing that requires going into files and doing it in a specific manner. Instead, what we're going to do is use another function. We're going to do equal sign t dot test, and we will put our, well, we'll just click here. So array 1 is going to be B2 to B4, and array 2 is going to be C2 to C4. And we're just going to type that in. It's going to be B2 colon B4 comma, and the space bar is really not necessary, or the space after is not necessary, but I'm going to do it for appearances. So our next array is going to be C2 to C4. And tails, we're going to hit 2, and we're going to do another comma. And for type, we're going to do 2, and then close our parentheses. And then that's it. It's really long, and it's really long-winded, but it'll give you the result that you want if you're doing this specific thing. After that, we're going to hit enter, and that gives you your p-value. So for this next group of data, we can do the same thing. Control C, Control V, and it'll automatically adjust to calculate the 3 cells above it. Again, if it doesn't work, just copy it. We'll copy the standard deviation for this one. Equal sign std ev dot s, and it's going to be these 3 up here, which we can type out as B10 colon B12, or we can just do this. There's a lot of different ways to do the same thing in Excel. And we're going to hit enter. That'll give us our standard deviation. And then we'll do the same thing. Copy, paste. It'll give us our mean. And we'll do that again. Copy, paste, and our standard deviation. And then for this last one, we can also copy and paste, and it should, yes, it does give us the correct variables in our function. So finally, what we're going to do is make the bar graph. What we're going to do to make our bar graph is click on our first mean, and then we're going to hold down Control and click on this next one, and while still holding down Control, we'll click on the 2 names of our variables here. So we're going to go up top to insert, find this little bar graph looking thing, and click on the first 2D column result. And if you're doing it right, it should show up with the names down here. Try to do it in the exact order that I did it, and it'll give you this result and automatically label your data sets. So here we have our bar graph. If this is all you need to do, then you're done. But if you want to customize it a little bit, let me show you how. So up here we have our chart title. If we double click, you can edit the chart title. For us, this data set is the effect of caffeine on D. Magna's heart rate. And we can also add the standard deviation to our graph. So you'll notice that when I clicked on it, something showed up on this side. What we're going to want to do is go over to this plus sign. It's to add all chart elements. We'll be back here several times. But this time what we're going to want to do is click this check mark for error bars and go over to this little arrow. click on More Options, and this little column should show up. For our custom standard deviation, we want to go down to Custom and specify value. So there's, again, several ways you could do this. The easiest way I've found is to just type in your standard deviations. So for the control bar, the standard deviation is 4.62. So we're going to do 4.62, comma, and for the 1% caffeine bar, it's going to be 14.1. And we'll close it with this squiggly bracket thing and hit OK. And now your error bars should show up correctly. So for our last few things we're going to do, we're going to just add some more chart elements. We'll add some axis titles. Those should just show up on your X and Y axis. For us here, it's going to be average heart rate and the magna treatment. And that's how you make a bar graph. If you want to save it and export it at all, you can right click and go to Save as Picture, and everything will show up for you to save it to your device. So if you have any questions, please let me know in the comments or get in contact with me however you can. I'm happy to answer any questions. I should have another video coming out about how to do this on the iOS version of Excel, because it's quite a bit more convoluted and difficult to do. But give me a little bit of time. I don't know how to screen capture on an iPad. Thank you so much for your time. I hope this helped you, and if it didn't, I'm sure there's somebody else who's done this exact same thing. Have a good day.